Dobrodošli.
Hello guys, dobrodošli.
Zastava.
Serbian Plum here and Australian future husband. And in today's video, we're going to talk about Yugoslavian cars. Yes, you heard well, Yugoslavian cars. And strangely enough, me being Serbian, I'm not going to be the one who's going to talk about them because I don't know anything about cars. Alistair is going to talk about top 3 favorite Yugoslavian cars. And it's so funny because we met at university and Alistair was a fan of Yugoslavian vehicles even before he even met me.
Well, the thing is, I was actually kind of ironically into them a little bit because I'm a fan of Top Gear, and for many years it's always been a bit of a joke, the whole Yugo, the Corral, and I always thought it was interesting because I thought they were kind of cute, but I sort of saw like, oh, they're shooting on this little car, you know, it's just like this communist car. But then, when I met Dee and I went to Serbia, I actually saw them for what they really are. They're the car of the people, and I'm kind of the fascination kind of grew. And so it kind of went from being ironic to actually being a true fan of these little cars.
Interestingly enough, when we first started dating, when I went to Serbia, I went on my own. And every time when I would see a Yugo, I would take a photo and I would send it to him. And in my album from 2017, 18, I have photos of different Yugos. And my brain couldn't comprehend why would he be interested in Yugos, and I thought that that was a joke. Well, obviously that was not, because when we went to Yugo, my uncle actually owns a Yugo, and he's in love with that Yugo. He doesn't want to sell that Yugo. It's still in the backyard. It doesn't do much, but it's there because it has heart and soul, and Ellie had the opportunity to be in that little small car.
There's a photo there.
That's right.
And I didn't even know how widespread they were. Like I wasn't aware they were like Toyota Corolla of like former Yugoslavia. Every corner has a Yugo. I just thought like, oh, you know, they're getting pretty old by now. I thought they'd kind of just be a bit of a rarity, but no, they're still everywhere. It's really cool.
And by everywhere, we mean everywhere.
And in our hearts. Bulgarin.
Ellie has joined a Facebook group called Paul of the Auto. So every time when we go to bed, he's like scrolling and he's like, babe, this is the car that we're going to buy. And it's usually Stojarin, a type of Stojarin in good mint condition. And we've seen a couple which we're going to buy when we go to Serbia. So let's go with number 3.
Okay, so my third favourite Yugoslavian car is the Fica. Zastava 750 and Zastava 850.
Why?
Well, how could it not be? I mean, look at it. It's a classic.
Feature. What does it make it so special? It's a shitty car.
Everybody, it's a shitty car, excuse me.
Well, it is a shitty car. Everybody in Serbia. Everybody in Serbia.
That's the song, right?
That's right. Don't we need to watch that film? We need to.
Yeah.
I need to make you watch that film. It's a good film.
What's it called for the people that might not be familiar with it?
Oh, surely they are. I cannot remember now. Nacionalna klasa sa Draganom Nikolićem, mojim omiljenim glumcem. So, what does make Fica a special car to you? Because, come on, tell people, you're an Australian, you live in a, first world country, everybody here, drives fancy cars. So why such love for, small Fica? Tell us.
Well, it was a people's car. So it started off as the Fiat 600 in Italy, and then Yugoslavia licensed it. Got a bigger engine, the 750, went through like the 50s and 60s like that. Then it got the 850 engine, a bit bigger, and it just sort of, they kept it more or less the same until the mid-80s when they stopped making it in 1985. So there's tons of them in Serbia, tons of them in former Yugoslavia, everywhere. And for the longest time, they were super duper cheap to buy, and parts were super plentiful. You could get one for like, pennies for dinner. But now, because of boomers, we love our boomers, they're starting to realise, and they're boomers kids too, not just the boomers, the whole families are realising, hang on, they were everywhere in our culture, 20, 30 years ago, but where have they gone? They're all starting to rust away. People are starting to find them again and rediscover them, and people are actually paying attention to their little features and making a comeback, and they're getting quite pricey now. So if I went to Serbia right now today and tried to buy myself a Fica, it'd be a lot of money actually, because well-restored ones in good nick these days can go for 2,000 or 3,000 euros. Sometimes even higher for like a really minty fresh one from like the 60s or 70s. Of all the classic Yugoslavian cars, they are the most simple and the easiest to maintain because there's about 10 moving parts in them. And the engines are so simple and so easy to work on. You can fix them with a rubber band and a hammer. Now that applies to most Yugoslavian cars, but especially the feature.
Would you consider buying a feature?
Oh, I'd love to. If I could find an affordable feature in good nick, it'd be a welcome part of my life.
Okay.
And I love, they're so cute. It's to us Westerners who might not be familiar with it. It's basically the Fiat 500, the classic 50s and 60s Fiat 500, reshaped a little bit for the 60s with a bigger engine. So what's not to love?
Car number 2.
Well, this might shock some people, but it is the Yugo Corral, or the Yugo, as the Westerners will know it, just the Yugo. Yugo 45, Yugo 55 has a few names.
Is it the one that was at my auntie's village?
That's right. Just the classic Yugo. When you say Yugo, you think
the
of
red one.
Yeah. For Americans out there, the Yugo GV, the one that was everywhere in America in the 80s and that kind of disappeared in the 90s because everyone gave them a bad rap. You see so many videos on the internet saying it's the worst car of all time because Americans have trouble maintaining such pieces of art. They said, hey, this is the cheapest car you can buy. I'm just going to treat it like dirt and not do anything to look after it, and then wondered why they disappeared after like 5 years and just stopped working. Well, you know what? You know, cars require a bit of love and care. It's like a woman or a man. It's like your partner. You look after it. You know.
Like he takes care of me. I remember when I was a child, and as I mentioned, my uncle has a quite love for Yugos. Every time when it was my baba's Slava, and every time we would have to go back home from my baba's, we could all fit in a small red Yugo. So that would be me, my mom, my aunt, my 2 cousins, and my uncle. That's like 6 people. So because I was always the youngest, I would probably be in someone's lap. That's probably illegal to do now, but
probably was never legal to begin with, but
that's right. That car. There's so many fond memories with Yugos and my family and cousins going everywhere, especially with my cousins. So many adventures going to small villages, then so many adventures of Yugo breaking down in the middle of the road when it's like minus 15 degrees, when you go from village A to village B and there's nothing in the middle of the road and there's cemetery behind you and you can't start Yugo going. That was my favorite memory. But
did it ever let you down overall? I'm sure.
No, I made it.
Exactly. After a bit of fiddling around, I'm sure she came back to life and got you back to your destination safely.
That's right, Givoli.
Givoli. What's
your number 1 car, Ali?
Number 1 car would have to be the one, the only, Zastava 101. Stojatin. Zastava Scala 55. Yugo Scala. Has many names, but only 1 car. They didn't really change it very much the entire time they made it, for about 40 years. 1971 to 2008. Probably the longest running Yugoslavian car. And probably the most influential. Because how many people out there own a 5-door hatchback with front-wheel drive? I do, we do. We have a Mazda 2. And it takes its roots back to the Stojatin. It was probably one of the first 2 or 3 5-door hatchbacks with front-wheel drive and a gearbox in the format we would consider normal today. There's only really 1 or 2 other cars that came before it, and they weren't super mass market. So Stojatin really takes the cake as being a super influential car, because those other 2 cars, which might have just beaten it to that title, didn't really last very long. But no, Stojatin was made for 40 years, and something that kind of blew my mind about it was, you can take the door from a 1971 Stojatin and stick it onto a 2008, it would fit. You could take the engine, stick it in there too, the bumper, it all fits. It's all this it's like Lego, this universal Lego car. It's kind of, you can't kill it. So I think they made around 3 million of them, and there's still tons on the road today because they're just unkillable. Much like the feature and the Yugo Corral, a hammer, rubber band, and a spanner, and she's laughing.
That's right. And when we go back to Serbia, when Australia finally let us go outside Australia,
When? If they do.
Because we're in a lockdown, because COVID, we can now only travel only 5 kilometers from where we are at the moment. So Serbia is pretty far compared to that. But we're gonna buy that car.
We're gonna drive it all across Europe. And you know what? It'll make it because it's a little battle that car.
And I will make a special YouTube series, traveling through Europe in a Scala. It would be the best.
It's gonna be great.
I can imagine all the adventures that we're going to have. We're probably gonna call us at Ognjen Amidžić. Actually, that's like a special Serbian TV host show where all the celebrity people go to talk about it. Can you imagine?
I don't know.
Really. Also, if you guys have any special memories in regards to Yugo and Scala, any family stories in regards to Yugo and Scala, like I did, please write down below. I would like to read them all and laugh about it, because I'm sure they're all funny. And do you own any Yugos or Scalas or traditional features? Please let us know.
Wow.
Thank you so much, hvala puno, for watching this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. Javite se i lajkujte.
Ciao. Vidimo se. Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.